Hey little cuties, Demi Bemi here, and welcome back to another speed build. This is going to be my third and final holiday build. Right now for me it is already Christmas Eve. When I post this tomorrow, it'll be Christmas for me and probably Christmas Eve for you, depending on where you are in the world. Oh god, excuse me. So this build, I cut out the whole like building part of it just because I literally took my sweet freaking time with this build. I think it turned out pretty good. Oh my gosh, excuse me, I'm so sorry. I'm having like hot chocolate right now because obviously Christmas Eve, and it's giving me indigestion because I'm an old person now. So anyway, I just took my time on this build. Like, I did not even almost rush. This recording was like 2.5 hours long or something. Like, this build isn't even like crazy. I just was so slow doing it. So anyway, I cut that out just because it's, I don't know, not super interesting, I feel like. And the holiday part, I feel like, was kind of the most important. So my idea for this build was sort of the kids that have grown up and had families of their own came back to grandma and grandpa's house for the holidays. So I kind of tried to make this look like the grandparents had left the kids' rooms sort of how they were like whenever they moved out, or maybe the grandkids are staying in these rooms and have like curated all of the stuff themselves. So that's kind of like what my thought was here, was to make it look a little bit kind of older. Like my grandparents' houses always kind of looked like grandparents' houses, so that was sort of my thought there. And then I wanted to decorate this vanity table with all of the debug objects that have the like the makeup and stuff that come from the vanity kit. Like, I know your Sims don't need them there, but I thought it was kind of a nice touch. And then I added those headphones, and then I put a cassette tape there. I don't know if you're even old enough to know what the heck a cassette tape is, but I couldn't find like a CD player. I don't even know if CD players are a thing. I honestly couldn't even find like an MP3 player or like freaking anything. So I was like, you know what? Cassette tape it is. So I think it's under the debug as like a mixtape or something, but anyway. So that's just kind of what I was doing there. Because I feel like this was maybe like an older kid's room, maybe like a teen room. So they just got kind of like just crap everywhere. So that was my thought there. And I go, sometimes when I'm in debug, I get like really distracted because there's just like cool stuff, and I get like ideas, like the festival tables that came with City Living. Like, I have like, sometimes I just get so distracted when I'm building. It's impressive sometimes, I feel like. So I just wanted to make everything look really like lived in, because this is grandparents' house. Grandparents have lived here forever. So that's just kind of what I was doing here, and then looking for just some more posters to put on the walls, because I feel like that's what kids do. They just cover up their walls with posters. Oh my god, excuse me. I'm so sorry. So anyways, I really love like these posters that came with City Living also that I'm like putting up here. Like the guy playing the acoustic guitar, and then there's like the woman in the red dress, and all of those posters are like really great. Like, I know it's supposed to be like some rogue artist that's just making these posters and plastering them all over town as like sort of like a message or a political whatever. But it's really cool. I really like it. And then, so I really do like this build. I like the layout of this build a lot. And I'm like thinking about it now, and I'm like really like not super happy with the dining room. I feel like, you'll see in a second, it's like a little bit cramped. But I feel like while I was building this, I justified that by saying like, oh, they don't usually have a giant table in there. That's like maybe they put extra leaves in their table for family to come visit or something. I don't know. But anyway, so my sort of like Christmas color theme was mostly like the blue swatch. And to be honest with you, I picked that because that's my favorite like Christmas color combination, is sort of like the white winter wonderland where there's like silver and white and blue and like snowflakes and stuff. That's personally my favorite. Only because I'm like, I love the snow. I love how like magical the snow is, and it's just so quiet and serene. So that's why I picked that color palette instead of like the typical like red and green. And then I wanted to have this living room like the grandparents sort of shuffled things around to fit the Christmas tree and like extra Christmas presents and stuff. So the living room furniture looks wonky. In the end, you'll see, but I feel like I don't know if it looks intentional or not, but it was intentional because I wanted the furniture to sort of be like moved from their original positions to house the rest of like the stuff. Like, oh, normally maybe the couch or those chairs or something are like up against a different wall or whatever. So that was just kind of my thought. And then I'm kind of like moving them around here and there and trying to get them to look normal, like they go there, but it didn't really look right. But I guess that wasn't really the point, was for them to look right. Anyway, so then I'm just sort of like putting in some extra presents and stuff. And the kitchen, I quite like. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like it feels a little awkward. I would say like just a smidge awkward, but I kind of like this sort of kitchen layout here. Because in that corner where there's like nothing, I put in that little blue table or the blue tablecloth table to sort of make like a breakfast nook type area. Like, my thought was, since they're like, they don't have the kids anymore, they just sort of eat their meals in the nook instead of eating in the formal dining room. Also, something, when I was like taking screenshots, like, I don't know if anyone else knows this, but I never use those curtains because I personally don't like them. So if, I don't know, sometimes I just need to like get out of my comfort zone and stop just using things I like, because that's just not how you experience life, just not trying new things. Anyway, so those curtains move like in the wind. Did you know that? I didn't know that. I thought that was really cool because I'm like taking screenshots and I'm having like the family like cook stuff to make it look like all homey and all that. And then I'm like having my sim in the kitchen like make like roast chicken and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, are these curtains like blowing in like a drafty wind, whatever? And they sure as heck are. I love that. I don't know if that's like a new thing, but I feel like I've used those curtains before somewhere and I've never freaking noticed. I don't know. Anyway, so then I made sure to go back and add like more garland over here around this sort of like entry into the kitchen. Even though they didn't snap there, it looks weird for them to not be there. So I added them, of course, duh. And then here in the kitchen, I always have the habit of like wanting to make things look very like modern and like clean lines and stuff. But I'm like, okay, if I went into my grandparents' house right now, is this what their house would look like? I mean, as far as like modern stuff goes, no. They're very like traditional, like old-fashioned sort of style. So that's kind of what I was going for there. And then I just tried to go through, I know like a lot of this build isn't Christmassy, like holiday stuff, but I wanted to make the house look super like cozy, like what it would like. I tried to, sometimes I have such a hard time articulating. I tried to make this build look like what it feels like to come home after like being away. And I guess this build was kind of like inspired by the fact that I'm currently living in Japan while the rest of my family is living in the United States. So even though I've kind of lived away from home for quite a few years now, I've never lived outside of the country. So it's sort of something that's just like even if I wanted to go home, it wouldn't be easy. Like I could go home, but it's just difficult to go home and it's expensive. So that was kind of what inspired me to do this build. And thank goodness for like FaceTime and like Skype and stuff, because if it weren't for that, I think I would just be super duper sad, because it's like so nice to see your family's face, you know, like when you're not home. It's kind of like being there when you're not there. It's really nice. So thank you, internet smart people and inventors, for making Skype. Excuse me, just trying to adjust myself here. So that's kind of what inspired this build. And my thought was maybe these people live in a southern region, because I think I built this in oh my gosh, what is it called? Willow Creek? I almost said Windenburg. Definitely not the world or neighborhood or whatever the heck. So I built this in Willow Creek, and I think somewhere in Willow Creek, off in the distance, you can see a swamp. So I'm assuming by the geography that it is in fact somewhere more southern, like, I don't know, are there swamps in Georgia? I don't know, Louisiana? I don't know. I've never really been to like the South proper. I've been to like, I've lived in Texas and I've lived in Tennessee, and I never saw any swamps. So that's all I know about that. Anyway, that's so irrelevant. But so my kind of thought was like, it's somewhere warm that doesn't really snow very often. So I didn't, because I thought about making the ground look like there was snow on it. If you saw my other, my cabin build I did, I tried to download the Let It Snow mod or Snow something mod, where like it covers things in snow, but that didn't really work out for Granite Falls, so I kind of gave up on that idea. Excuse me. So I thought about like painting, using terrain paint, using like the really light sand and making it look like snow, and making the roof like that white concrete, because that kind of looks like a snow-covered roof. But to be honest, I really just wish there was weather in this game. Like, when the heck are we gonna get weather? Like, honestly, out of all the things, I think weather is one of the things I miss like the most about The Sims. Because there's like a season's weather pack for all of The Sims until now, and there's still no weather, and I'm really sad about that. Because do you know how much more dynamic or complicated or more difficult, or whatever you want to call it, like rags to riches would be when your sim doesn't have a home and they're just on a lot and they're sort of like time crunch, gotta make a house before it like rains or snows? Like, I just think that would be so great. So there's my 2 cents there on The Sims. So back to the build. I wanted to give like the grandma and grandpa's room an ensuite, and I really wanted to use that corner tub, but I feel like the bathroom being like a 3x3, it just wasn't really going to happen. So I switched it up, and then I did give in and make this bathroom a lot more modern with like the black and the white theme in here. But my justification for this was whenever like the kids moved out, they decided that they were going to renovate or start doing renovations on the house to upgrade, and they probably started on their bathroom first, because I feel like that's a lot of people's, like, at least in America anyway, like people get really like their bathroom is like their sanctuary where they go to like relax and unwind and like soak in the tub and all that kind of stuff. So my thought was, the new grandma was like, you know what, we are going to get like the newest, most high-tech stuff for our bathroom, and sort of made it like this modern spa kind of feel, was my thought for their bathroom anyway. And if you could excuse me, I'm gonna have a drink of my hot chocolate before it becomes not hot. Like real life, I love like winter time, because then you can have all the hot drinks that you can drink hot drinks in the summer, but then you get like too hot and like uncomfortable. Like it's just like, I don't know if anyone else feels like that. If it's like hot outside and you drink like a hot drink, it's like you like your internal temperature just like gets too freaking hot. So I love the winter because then I can wear layers, which is my favorite way to dress, to wear like 100,000 pieces of clothing and drink hot drinks and eat freaking soup. Like, why do we need anything other than fall and winter? I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, hot chocolate's like my favorite, and also putting like a candy cane in there, like, that is perfection, let me tell you what. So anyway, my thought on this room specifically was that they probably initially had this room as a guest room, and I wanted to go for kind of like one of those weird, like, because I don't mind this shade of like this mauve-y pink color. Like, I think it's actually a really lovely color. However, I personally feel like when you paint at least all your walls anyway, it sort of like closes it in because it's kind of a darker color, and it just makes me think of like the 80s for some reason, like where painting your walls like teal and this like mauve color was like a thing. I don't know. So it kind of reminded me of like an old kind of paint color or wallpaper, so that was my choice on that. And then I wanted to make this room like a little, doesn't have to be necessarily a little boy's room, because I think when I was a little kid I would have loved the shit out of this room, but my thought was making it like, so the walls have like that grass pattern on them, so I wanted to make the carpet that like stripy green color, like to make it sort of like look grassy a little bit, sort of like they're tiny size like bugs or something like living in there. I don't know. Excuse me. So I was really like, oh my gosh, whew, I don't know what happened to my voice there for a second. I always really like little kids' rooms where it's almost like bringing the outside in, where people will build like fake tree trunks and stuff like in the corner of their room, and it's like a reading nook or something like that, or they'll have like stars and like clouds and stuff hanging from their ceiling. I think that's just like the best thing ever. And sometimes like I wish my room looked like that with the stars and the clouds. I think that would be like legit AF. So I really wanted to make this room very like little kiddish, like where there's just like a bunch of just everything is going on, and there's just like stickers everywhere, and it's just like what? Like just too many colors. There's just like too much going on. And then I figured in this house they wouldn't have a proper study. They would just have stuck a desk somewhere that it would fit, just because I imagine whenever this house was built, it wasn't built with a home office in mind. So that's just sort of what I was going for there. And then I was just sort of going through here and switching out the lights to make it like more appropriate, I guess. And then yeah, so I was just like going through changing all of the not wall fixtures, well, some of the wall fixtures, I guess, but a lot of like the light fixtures, because when I'm building, I always like initially forget, but then when I do remember, I put in those like saucer disc lights or whatever. They're like 150 simoleons, and they're really good lights. Like, they really brighten up a room, and so it's really good for building and like when you're like doing the interior and stuff like that. However, I don't feel like those lights fit every single household, so that's why I just went through and like changed those out. However, I do sometimes use them because I do really like those lights. And then I was thinking they probably have like a little bit of an entertainment area, because this front deck turned out quite large, and I don't know, I kind of like it. It's kind of cute, somewhere where you could just have like some drinks on the front porch. Because me personally, I'm very much like a porch person. Like, I really like to sit outside and like talk to people. It's either like outside on the porch or like in the kitchen for some reason. Do you guys ever have like a place where everybody like tends to sort of like congregate? Like, for me, like, people, it always seems to be the kitchen or like outside on the porch. And usually whenever like we have like people over and stuff like that, it always seems to be like the kitchen. I don't know. But anyway, it would be kind of cool to see if you guys have like a special place where your friends or you tend to just sort of go to. I don't know. I just feel like that kind of stuff's always just really interesting to see. Kind of like, oh, like, what's your word for this? And like, you're part of the world. Like, just tonight we were talking to some people, and they were talking about using the word soda or pop or Coke, and they were kind of like, oh, you call that pop? Like, where are you from? And so it was just kind of like interesting just to hear what, you know, what it's kind of like everywhere else. Anyway, we're actually getting relatively close to the screenshots here. So this is available on the gallery for download. My EA ID is missdemibobemi, and you can use the hashtag missdemibobemi or just demibobemi. And I have a lot of other builds and stuff, being that this is the first build you've seen from me. You can find all kinds of stuff on there. And yeah, so anyway, I just want to say thank you guys so much for hanging out with me and watching this build. I really appreciate it. I really love doing these builds. They're really fun. And if you guys have any suggestions of builds that you would like to see, feel free to let me know on like Twitter or in the comments. That would be like really great. I would love to hear from you guys. And anyways, again, thank you so much. Woo, I had a little bit of a stutter there. Thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with me. I really do super appreciate it. Happy holidays to whatever holiday you're celebrating, and I'll see you little cuties in the next one. Bye!